I have been making so many of the warm heart mitt pattern and I absolutely love them. It's funny because there's a lot of color work in it, and I have learned a really cool hint when you are doing small bits of color work and you're doing it in the round on magic loop. And I just wanted to give you this hint to help your color work stay nice and loose, especially when they have to fit over a hand. Sometimes your color work can get really tight, and this hint will help it stay nice and loose. So you can see I'm doing 2 at a time mitts here, and I'm doing it on the magic loop. And if I just pull this down here, you'll see that I have mostly one color here, but then every so often I have one red. These are going to be hearts, and these are the tips of the hearts. So here are the hearts, here are the stitches, and you can tell they're really far away from each other. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 stitches in between here. Now, I have already made a video called Catching Floats as You Go. That will teach you how to span those large gaps. So let me show you what it looks like on the back. If I turn this over, you can see that here's a red stitch and the next one is way over here. But you can tell that if you're using the method that I teach in Catching Floats as You Go, I'm catching that red strand every once in a while so it doesn't just go straight from here over to here. That will help prevent that big long strand in the back from getting stuck on your fingers when you try to put your hands in the mitt. All right, so now what I have to do is I have to do this same thing. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that means I have to do 1, 2, 3, and then when I come around to this side, I have to do 4, 5, 6, 7. So the next stitch is going to go here. So what is going to happen is if I don't catch the floats properly, then this strand is going to stretch across like that. And then when I go to put the glove on, let's just pretend it's in there, it's going to be really tight, and that is going to prevent the glove from opening, and we don't want to do that. So I'm going to show you how I have been avoiding that with this particular project. All right, let me get all untangled here. So I have right now on this glove, I've already gone across this side. So I'm going to use that as my pattern. I'm going to knit 1, 2, 3, 4, and then do 1. Okay, great. So first of all, I need to knit 4 before I introduce my new color. So I'm going to go ahead and do 1, 2, 3, and 4. And now I'm going to bring in my red. Hang on, my strands are all tangled over here. Let me get prepared. I think that doing color work with multiple colors, most of the time you spend is just keeping yourself untangled. All right, so I've made a loop here, okay, just with the end of the thread. And I am going to go into the stitch that needs to be red, and I'm going to loop this over the end, and I'm going to knit that stitch to introduce my new color into my color work. All right, now I got to find my tail because I don't want to knit with that. Here it is. I'm going to drop that, and I'm going to continue knitting with this. Now, at this point, I actually don't want to knit with this because I have one red stitch, and now it's time for the other color. So using the Catching Floats as You Go method, I'm going to move that over here. I'm going to grab, oops, not the tail. Goodness. I'm going to grab my main color here. So I have my main color in this hand, and I have my red that's going to go behind the scenes in this one. So using that method, I'm going to knit 7 stitches. So I'm going to go 1, 2, and then I'm going to catch the third, whoosh, 3. Okay, now back to regular knitting. 4, 5, and then on the third stitch I want to catch the float in the back. 6, so every 3 stitches. Okay, and then 7. Okay, and now it's time for a red stitch. So now I'm gonna grab the red stitch. All right, so again, we're gonna knit with the main color. 1, 2, bring this one in front to catch it. That's 3. And then 4, 5, and then catch that one, that's 6, and then one more 7, and now we've got our red, which we're going to grab there. Okay, so now here's the deal. I'm catching the floats on every 3 stitches, so this is going to work out for me great. There's 1, 2, 3 stitches here, so I'm going to catch the last float on this one. Now, if you don't have that many stitches, or you have too many, it doesn't matter. You still want to catch the floats every 3 stitches. If there's extra, you always want to catch the float at the end of the row. That way it won't start in the middle before it stretches to the other side, okay? So here's what I mean by that. If I collapse this a little bit here, this is going to have to stretch over here to that 4th stitch on the other side. I mean, that is just going to cut off all of your glove. So you really want this to go all the way over to the very last stitch. Okay, and it just so happens that it's 3 stitches, so that works out really nicely. So we're going to go 1, and we're going to go 2. Even if it was 2 stitches, you would still want to whoosh, catch that float in your last stitch. So now our yarn is as close to the end as possible. Great. Now I'm going to try to turn this whole mess over. Give me a moment while I just get acclimated here. All right, this one goes in here, and this one comes out like this. Let me grab the end. Okay, so now I am going to knit 4 more stitches in my main color. Let me get myself situated here. Now, the first thing you would think you would want to do is catch this float because it's the first stitch on this side to make sure this red wraps around the corner. However, I have found if you catch a float 2 stitches in a row, it shows through on the front side. So we don't want to do that. We're going to skip this first stitch. So I'm just going to go ahead and knit it. Then I'm going to catch my float. And then I'm going to knit, I need to knit 4 stitches. So there's 3, 4 in the main color. And then I'm going to go ahead and knit this one. Let me knit all the way to the end of this round so that I can show you what it looks like on the cables. Okay, I have gotten all the way around. I'm just going to slide these cables in here so we can see this a little easier. Okay, so now we can see the points of our hearts here. Okay, and there's a point of our heart on the back side. So we've gone around the corner, catching that red float the whole time. So I'm just going to spread it open like this. Here is one stitch, and here is the next one. You can see how if you don't catch that float on the ends or as close to either end as possible, that would literally stretch from right here across the work to right here. So catching them on the last stitch, then you skip this one and catch it on the next one, helps to lay that thread nice and flat without any pinch, so you don't get any pinch around that corner. And just that little tip will really help to keep your color work nice and loose so they fit perfect every time.